Today I'm going to show you how I made this Ahsoka shelf diorama. Whatever your opinion is about The Mandalorian as a series, I think there are some real highlights. For me, Chapter 13, The Jedi, is one of those. It's 45 minutes of some of the most fun and vibey Star Wars of the Disney era. I've never been a huge Ahsoka fan, but this episode rules, and I knew as soon as the Hot Toys figure was announced that I wanted to make a shelf of this Japanese garden-inspired fight scene. I just think it's a great setting for a lightsaber fight, with the constraints of the walkway, the giant door, the poison garden backdrop. You get some cool introductory shots of the environment earlier in the episode. The door with its giant geared hinges stood out to me as iconic visuals. Star Wars has a thing for elaborate, giant mechanical doors that often threaten to crush and kill things. We'll come back to a few of these doors in future videos. Most of this shelf build would end up being 3D printed, so the first step was to build the model. I did this a few years ago, and I didn't know Blender or any other software yet, so I used Tinkercad, which is a free browser-based modeling tool from Autodesk. It's actually super easy to learn and great if all you're doing is geometric shapes. Like I said, I built this a few years ago, and I didn't film the 3D printing, so cue that stock footage. So here's everything printed, primered, and assembled. The interior of the lamp poles are clear acrylic tubes. I painted the inside white to diffuse the light, hide the LEDs, and give it more of that frosted glass lantern glow effect. The columns that hold the doors and the walkway are coated with AK Interactive's concrete terrain. Both the two main door pieces and the four hinges are attached to the columns with magnets. The ones in the back of the door snap into some beefy magnets in the columns. The columns connect to the platform with pegs that fit into these notches. It makes it all easier to assemble inside the shelf and get access to wiring that runs down the back of the cabinet. Speaking of wire, the cables from the lamps run down through the floor and then under the walkway out the back of the shelf. These sections on the side of the walkway will be submerged in resin water, and on one side I wanted a boulder poking out of the surface. I wasted a bit of cash ordering all kinds of fake rocks online. Maybe cut this one in half? Then I found the perfect thing. One of those fake rocks for hiding house keys. I just cut the bottom off to make it a bit shorter and have a nice flat surface to glue down to the tile. Next up was to add some moss to this boulder and give it another layer of detail and realism. This is AK Diorama's moss texture, and it does what it says on the tin. And this is fancy Elmer's glue. All the other diorama nerds were using it, so when in Rome. This is some diorama grass that I'm going to mix with the moss texture to use as the moss and weeds growing in the cracks of the stone tile and the flagstone around the doorway. With everything all mossed up, it was time to glue all the pieces down and get ready to pour the resin water. This glue is E6000. When I was first introduced to this, the guy at the store described it as, quote, "probably my favorite glue," end quote. I don't know if it's my favorite glue, but maybe? The best glue is very context dependent. I'm not even sure how you would make that list. Maybe the most versatile glue? If you were stranded on a desert island and could only take one glue, what glue would it be? Let me know down in the comments. Before I glued down the main walkway section, I put in some magnets. This lets me use a metal flight pole or armature to hold the figure and mostly conceal it behind them. And once I had that section glued down, I was ready to find a space fish for the other side of the water. It turns out that space fish in this diorama look a lot like earth fish. This was the first resin pour project I'd ever done, but it was a pretty simple one. This is a 2-part resin. You just combine the base resin and the hardener, make sure they're mixed really well, and then you can add different inks or dyes to give it a bit of color. I thought this might cut down on the transparency a bit and give the water the illusion of more depth. The clear acrylic walls here are temporary and will be removed once the resin cures. Pouring it in a thin stream over the tongue depressor helps remove bubbles from the resin. The sides needed some cleanup here. I was hoping to avoid this, but I'd watched a lot of resin pour YouTube videos and had some ideas about how to tackle this. The trick I learned here is to use gloss clear coat on the sanded surface. The clear coat fills in all the tiny scratches from the sandpaper and self-levels to create a perfectly smooth top layer, making it crystal clear again. After some paint touch-up on the walkway, it was time to get all the masking tape and paper off and finish the final details on the water. There were a few more things to clean up, but all in all, it wasn't looking too bad for my first resin pour. The water looks really clear, with very few bubbles. That's great for the sides, but the top surface is too perfect, so next step was to add water ripples. These guys really don't waste a lot of time brainstorming names for these products, do they? You just dab it on with a paintbrush. You can kind of shape it as it starts to harden. I think it came out okay, but this seems like a technique that probably takes a lot of time to perfect. Home stretch here. I just had to paint the columns, doors, and hinges. Don't make fun of my crappy airbrush, or my crappy airbrush technique. I know, they both need upgrades. If you want to see how I make these custom LED lightsabers, stick around to the end of the video for a link to that tutorial.